Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to try and ask each one of the three of you in the order in which you something. Mr. Malkin, I think I heard you say that your technology in the Empire State Building in New York is producing a payback in 3 years. Right. I mean, that's phenomenal from any.
It's phenomenal and it's documented.
So, really, you don't need an incentive or a subsidy or whatever for that kind of payback. Won't the private sector just jump all over that?
You know, I wonder how many oil industry investments would be made if they had to do it on their own without some form of subsidy and on just a 3-year. I would suggest that, and having been in the industry, I can tell you, we rely a little quicker than that. But I will tell you that.
I mean, I understand you'd like it because you can sell more if it's a 2-year payback. I get that, but
the important thing is, by the way, this is non-proprietary. We don't own it. We created this in partnership with a bunch of other organizations. It's absolutely free. It's open source. You don't have to deal with any particular products. I would suggest as follows. For an even playing field, that you should look at energy conservation just as another form of energy and put that into the mix. That's really my thought. I don't look at it as a panacea, but I certainly look at it as a giant force of change once it's been quantitatively organized.
Yeah, okay, and I'm from Southern California, so I'm sure in a more temperate climate, the payback isn't going to be quite the same.
No, actually, it'll be different because it'll be different steps. There are 67 different energy efficiency measures which we looked at iteratively. We chose 8 at the Empire State Building. They'll differ by virtue of climate, building type, building use.
Okay.
So that and it's all on a relative basis. You may, in fact, find that the savings that you would find have nothing to do with heating, but have more to do with air conditioning, have more to do with lighting.
Yeah.
But the important thing is there's a variety.
Okay, fair enough. Dr. Greenstone. Thinking about research, I spent most of my career in the car business, and I was involved with the General Motors electric car back in the 90s. And by now, I can tell you everyone by now thought there'd be a breakthrough in battery technology, and we'd be able to, and it hasn't come in spite of billions of dollars of research, both from the government, both under Presidents Clinton and President Bush, and in the private sector. So the research, I think you'd agree, doesn't guarantee, obviously, a breakthrough. But so what I wanted to ask you is, if we were to have a substantial increase in energy research done by the government, what would you charge them with doing? What would you ask them? What would you tell them to look into? Where do you think the breakthrough is closest, or the most practical, or the area in which we could get the most productivity?
Thanks for the question, Congressman Campbell. As you rightly point out, research doesn't have guarantees. It proceeds and fits and starts. I don't think when the NSF was funding what became web browsers, anyone had in mind that it would produce web browsers and the myriad of industries and very high-paying jobs that have fallen out of that. I think what one would have to do is convene a panel of experts, as is done at the NIH and NSF, who are only concerned with advancement of knowledge and not concerned and free of political influence, and try and focus research on where the highest returns are. And I think they could be given the charge of trying to find the lowest cost, low carbon sources of energy and or ways to sequester carbon. I would give a broad mandate and keeping an eye on cost and kind of let science proceed as best it can.
Okay.
And I also wanted to respond to one thing that came up in your excellent question, Mr. Malkin. I completely agree that for too long, our energy policy has been focused on providing subsidies for deployment of particular technologies, be they oil.
Okay, Doctor, I just hate to, because I wanted to get a question in, Dr. Ward, so perhaps, and I've got 48 seconds, so love to hear it, so hopefully. Dr. Ward, just what I wanted to ask you is your focus has been obviously on the drilling and so forth in the Gulf. And again, coming from the car industry as I have, there's 130 million vehicles on the road in the United States now that run, virtually all of them run on some form of refined petroleum product. Even most of the new technologies that are out there, if everybody goes to a plug-in electric 5 or 6 years from now, those plug-in electrics will largely run on a refined petroleum product. Even if we went to fuel cells, the most practical use of a fuel cell, it runs on a refined petroleum product. So my point is simply that we are going to, no matter what we develop, for a long period of time, 10, 20, 30 years, we are going to need a lot of refined petroleum in this country under almost any scenario, are we not?
Yes, that's true.
And developing that domestically would be better than importing it.
Right. As Congressman Brady said, that's kind of the bridge to these future energy alternatives.
The gentleman's time is